crafters. In this video, I'm going to show you Graphic 45's brand new square tag and clock die. This die is super fun and great to use, and I'm going to share tips and tricks on how to use it, as well as show you a few little samples that we've mocked up for you to show how fun they are. To introduce myself, I'm Charee with Graphic 45, and I am ready to dive right in to show you these dies. These are so fun, and we've been working on them for over a year now, but the reason why we created them is because we got so many requests from you, from our G45ers, asking for us to come out with a die that would fit and coordinate with our current tag staples that we currently sell. They come in all sorts of sizes, and that's what we've done. We've gone ahead and created a die for each size of tag. So they work beautifully together. So you just take one of your tag bases and you're gonna cut out a little sample. Like I'll show you in the video. We'll cut out a sample and we'll show you how perfectly it fits over the top of this. It gives a nice little 1/8 of an inch border around, so it showcases both pieces really well. So I'm excited to show you that, as well as show you all the different intricate pieces that you get with this particular die. So let's go ahead and come on in and we'll get started on the creating. All right, so with the square tag and clock metal die, I have taken it out of its plastic packaging to show you all of these gorgeous pieces. It comes with 8 different pieces, and I just wanted to share some fun tips on how to make sure you're using these to the best that they should be used. So to get started, I'm going to start off with this fun and beautiful circular doily frame. This is a really intricate and beautiful die, and whenever you're using an intricate die, you want to be sure to use this piece just by itself. So we don't want to die cut any of the other pieces while I'm die cutting this one, because I want to make sure it's going to grasp all those details. So I'm going to pull out just some of my blue cardstock, and I'm using a Spellbinders Platinum 6. I've got my platform and I've got my standard cutting plate. I'm going to put my paper down next, and just right in the center there, I'm going to put my clock die and then put my plate over the top. And I have tried this with a total of 3 machines, and each machine's a little bit different. So you want to know how your machine works and figure it out what works best for you. When I'm using this beautiful die, since there are so many details, with my Platinum 6 machine, I like to go both forward and backwards to get all of those details in there. If you want to be sure that you've got those, it's another great tip that you can always rotate your die while it's in motion. So if you go forward once and then rotate it and then bring it back through, that's going to help if you have any weak spots on any of your plates to get those through. So now that I've cut this out, if you are lucky enough to have a tool like this, or the tool-in-one from Spellbinders, these are really handy and make cutting out intricate dies a cinch. So you just go through those details on your mat, and also catches most of those tiny little pieces that sure like to go everywhere. So once I've done that, you can see things are starting to move out, and you're starting to see some of those details in there. The next thing I'd want to do is take some kind of craft pick, something pointy, and this die, every die has release points, and you want to find those on this die for sure. There's 4 of those, and just poke your craft pick or your sharp object through, so it's going to kind of pull it out of the die itself. From this point, I'm going to take my craft pick and work it under one of these edges. And once I've done that, then you can start pulling it up, going around in a circle. Because these edges are so delicate, you do want to be careful when pulling this up. You don't want to rip through it and go too fast. So if it does start to pull, you can always go from the other end until you've got it all up. So perfect. So from this point, you see I have a few extra pieces that haven't want to come out, so you can just take your craft pick, and then just pull out those extra little pieces. So I would recommend with this one to go over it twice when using it, and then just be patient when pulling out these cute little flourishes. I've got my last one out. One more here. All right, there are quite a few other tips and tricks that I have yet to try. So there's always different videos that you can do too. I know some people use dryer sheets or also wax paper or parchment paper when they're using intricate dies. So you could try that if you want to as well, but this has always worked great for me here with my 3 different machines. So I've got that piece all cut out and ready to go. Next, we're going to work with this fun clock face. Clean out my die before I put it back. So the next time I go to use it, it's all ready to go. Alrighty, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to cut out my clock face, and I'm going to be using, just to show you all the details, I'm going to use this blue cardstock, and if you want to use that circular piece that we already cut out, you can go ahead and do that. And if you have a post-it note, it is helpful. You can use a post-it note, or you can use washi tape if you want to keep that in place so it doesn't slide around on you. So I'm going to just use some of our washi tape and making sure I'm just putting it on my dress a little bit so it isn't so tacky. All right, so now I've got that taped in place. I'm going to put this back through my machine. Just roll that through. And with this one, I haven't had any problems at all getting those details, so I'm just going to put it through that one time and see how it works. So with that circle we had left over from the doily circle, we have these pieces, which could be a lot of fun to use too. Those scraps can always be used. And then I'm going to take my little tool again, just making sure to punch out any of these extra little pieces. Alrighty. So once we've got that, you can see in my die, my clock face is still in there, so I'm just going to take my craft pick again and find these release points here on this die. There's one right here on this Roman numeral number 4. And now I can slowly start pulling this out in a circular motion as well, making sure to be gentle. You don't want to rip through. And there you go. Voila. And then just making sure your number 12 is at the top. You can see all those details really look so elegant and rich. And I love that these dies are also gold, which works beautifully with our Graphic 45 aesthetic. And it just looks a little bit nicer, which I love. So then we've got our middle clock piece. If you do want to, I think it looks great without it, but you can always add this too. So I had one of those circles left over from my clock face, so I'm going to do the same thing. Just put that on my cutting plate, use that washi tape I already used. It's great, you can use that numerous times and get a lot of life out of it. Maybe it's not gonna. Now we're sticking. Okay. And roll this through. And the big reveal. Pull off our washi tape. And can see on the back of this, there are 2 little release holes. And look at that, isn't it great? You can see these nice little details all the way around, and there is this little indent hole, which is great if you're using those clock hands. You can just use your craft pick and punch a bigger hole, and then you could see, like I've done here, I just punched a brad through it so these clock hands can move and look lifelike and fun to play with. So next up, let's go ahead and cut out our hands, hiding my die from me. All right, so this one, we've got this one back here. So we've got 4 little pieces. We've got a little flourish and the hour, minute, and second hand. So since these are smaller and not as intricate, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do all 4 at the same time. So I just stress when you're doing the clock face and the circle frame that those you would do alone, but these other pieces, you can do those all at the same time and they will come out beautifully. So put this through. Beautiful, and these are so tiny little pieces, so make sure that when you're cutting these out, you don't misplace them because they will like to walk away from your craft table. Alrighty, so we've got one out. Now work on our second hand. And I love how these look when they're all together, like you can see on this tag, but using them in separate pieces is also a really fun way to use them. Like this little flourish doily would look great on lots of projects, would be a great little addition to cards in the corners or other pieces, so I can see getting a lot of mileage out of that. And I would suggest when you're cutting things out, maybe just cutting a few extra pieces and having a little extra envelope or container where you have some pre-cut die cuts so they're ready to go when you're making a project or a card in a hurry. You don't have to pull everything out. So you can see those all cut beautifully all together. So next up, we just have the tag left over. Stick these back on here so they don't try to walk away from the table. So next up, we've got this tag, which is the whole idea behind our dies. And these are super fun to work with, and they are a large piece of metal that goes over a large surface. So I kind of suggest using it like a car going over a speed bump. So I'm gonna take my platform and my cutting mat, and I'm going to put my paper down on there, and then when I put my die on it, I'm going to just angle it just slightly, so it's kind of, when it's going through the machine, some of that metal goes through a little more smoothly all together. So here we go. And when you're doing these tags, you can do up to 3 sheets of paper at once, and it will cut through all of those. I've just done the one, but you can see it came out beautifully with the one pass. But when we were prepping this product for our release trade show, we did teach a class, which is this here, and I did cut in there, I think in this, for our class, I cut up to, I think, like 1,000 of these different tags. So I did a lot of times 3 at a time, and it worked beautifully every time throughout all those tags. And I did about 100 of these clocks. So I've had quite a bit of practice with this gorgeous set, and they were a huge success in our class. So as you can see, we've cut that out. Let's just go ahead and put our die back. Move it out of the way, and then let me show you how well it works just by putting it on top of one of our tag surfaces. So you just get the coordinating tag, which this one is the square tag, and it comes in ivory, black, and craft. And then you can see the whole perfect size for this grommet. And once you glue it down, you'll have a nice little border that goes all the way around, highlighting both the tag and whatever paper you're using. So let's go ahead and use a fun paper and try that tag one more time. This is our paper, one of our papers from our Sun-Kissed collection. It's so bold and beautiful. I'm just making sure to put my tag die on an angle and find my cutting plate. We're gonna roll this through. All right. So as you can see, it has cut out beautifully on that paper. And let's go ahead and put all of this together on this tag so you can see how it all comes together. So I'm just gonna use some liquid adhesive for this. I'm using Tombo's multi-mono glue. You're welcome to use score tape for this as well, or whatever you prefer. Down over the top of this. And you can use a bone folder for this, but just to get out all those air bubbles, once it's placed where you want it to be placed, you can use a brayer or a bone folder to get out any air bubbles, making sure it's nice and adhered. Alrighty, so isn't that gorgeous already? Now for the next step, I know that with intricate dies, it can be a little tricky to get these pieces adhered on there. So I'm gonna share just a little fun little tip with you on how to do that. You can, I'm using just a, cut up some scrap craft mats, but you can just put it on your craft mat. You don't have to cut yours up, but just using a craft mat or some surface like that, you'll wanna flip over your die. I did this in the wrong order because I want to do my frame first, but you'll just flip it over and then you can get a nice even layer of adhesive on there. So I'm just going to pretend like this is already adhered on there. Glue it down with there's the 12 at the top. And then next, you can just take your craft pick that you have been using. Make sure. It's all on there straight. Looking good. And you can take, if you want to make sure it's all on there good, take a scrap piece of paper and push that down. Nice. So now we're going to do our beautiful frame. Same way, just flipping that over. And you can use a makeup sponge for this if you don't have one of these little craft brushes. Now we've got adhesive all over that frame, and tweezers are also a great tool to have while using intricate dies. All right, but I've got it placed approximately where I want it to be placed. So now I'm just using my scratch piece of paper to make sure I get this all put down. Looking good. You can use that brayer again if you'd like. Just pull up the details. So put that back. Alrighty. So then last, if you want to put your clock together, you're going to need a little brad. Get this out of the way. Grab a brad. You can't always just glue it down. All right, so just using one of these tiny little brads, and we do have a few different staples that come with these little brads in there, so you might have some left over from there. The clock hands already have these handy little holes in there. These tiny brads fit through. So just put those through there. All right, got two on. I know you've got a lot of great tips and pointers too, so if you want to leave those in the comment section below and just share with us some of your favorite ways to cut intricate dies, or some of your favorite ways to use our tags, we always love to hear from you. So now I'm just putting this through that hole and then making the brad legs go either way. You know, you can set your time on your clock and go ahead and glue this down onto your project. But it is looking beautiful as is. And since this has that metal piece in there, you're gonna go ahead and wanna hold that down for a little bit to make sure that that liquid adhesive is drying on there before you let go. But then there you go. You can see this made a gorgeous clock, and it's beautiful onto our square tags. You can use it in other fun projects such as this one on the rectangle album, and you can see instead of using the centerpieces, we used one of our lion's head door knockers, which are super fun to use and come with 2 packages in there. Along with this rectangle album, you do get 6 of these regular tags, which they have their own die, which you'll be sure to watch that video too on that die and how to use it. So we thank you so much for joining us here today for this video, and I look forward to seeing what you create with these gorgeous new dies. Be sure to share your projects with us using the hashtag graphic45. And as always, happy paper crafting.